right, guys, welcome back to episode 16 of the Liberalish podcast. I'm your host, Keith. I'm here joined by the lovely, the beautiful, the intelligent Carly.
Hi guys.
And we are also here joined by Marcus, who offered me a pretty terrible trade in fantasy basketball. So we're not friends with him today.
I thought it was a fair deal, but I was just trying to help, man. I know you haven't won a game this year, but it is what it is.
I am tanking for a high draft pick in our next fantasy league.
Oh wow, I didn't know that you got Sam Hinkie running your team.
Hey man, we got to bring him back. We got to bring him back from the dead.
I like it.
All right. So a lot happened. We have a new president, surprisingly.
Great.
Nothing happened. So was there any like key takeaways from the inauguration that you guys picked up on that you guys wanted to bring to the pod?
I know for me, I didn't think I would be as emotional as I was, but I think really seeing Kamala get inaugurated, as much as I've like critiqued her in the past, I just couldn't
Mhm.
help but to think the representation, especially when her and Obama had a moment to see Michelle and Obama there, and then him kind of embrace her as our VP. I just thought it was a really historical, monumental moment because I couldn't help but to think of like because I know for me, when I was in sixth grade and I watched Obama get inaugurated, it was like really big for me. So I couldn't help but to think that all the, little girls who are at home thinking, maybe I too could follow in these footsteps. So that for me was really big. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think any criticisms, any critiques, any, reservations you might have about, Joe or Kamala or just this administration in general, especially everything that's been happening, that happened on Capitol Hill on January 6th. It was refreshing. It was refreshing to know that like we're getting a new president. This is a fresh start. So it was really big for me. I was really happy with it. I'm really excited about it. I'm really, looking forward to see what they're going to do the next 4 years and what we can expect from this new administration.
All right, cool. Hey, nicely done or nicely spoken. For me, I just noticed that it was really hard for me to say President Biden as opposed to Vice President Biden. And I saw that Joe had the same issue himself when he was in the White House. He was addressing the press. He said at one moment, "The president wants this to be done," and he's like correcting himself. He's like, "No, I want this to be done." So I was like, "All right, I'm not alone in thinking like he's still the forever vice president." So
I think that's fair though. I think because it's not an unfamiliar territory for him. Like I said, he's spent years in the White House working alongside Obama. He's familiar with the White House. A lot of Inauguration Day was talking about just what that day looks like for the White House staff, for their families. They spent all day preparing the White House, and it's just funny because I'm like, to anybody else, it's like, oh, I'm moving into the White House. And yes, this will be Joe Biden's first time living in the White House, but he
mhm.
is definitely not unfamiliar with the White House. So I do think for him and for Jill, it will take some getting used to. Like I've walked these halls, I've spent time in this big building, but this is my home now. Like I live here. I'm the president and I'm the first lady. I'm no longer the VP and the second lady. So I can understand the confusion or just maybe it was, I don't know if it was jokingly or not or if he was serious, but I can definitely understand the lapse in or the slip up in just, oh, this is me, I'm the president.
Yeah, and like come to think of it, how many times did he run for president? Was this his fourth try or third
I think this
try?
was the fourth shot. I think 'cause I know he ran in 2008. I think he ran again in 2004, and I think he may have run again run earlier than that. But yeah, this is
Yeah,
his fourth go at it,
it's fourth go. That's
and
insane, man.
And I also
somehow he
remember
won.
them saying when Joe Biden was he was elected to the Senate, he was the youngest senator, and now he's the oldest president. So I just felt like that's
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 character
me,
arc.
like that's a lot, so and considering, I know for me, considering everything that Joe Biden has been through, all the tragedies that he's had to go through and overcome, I couldn't help but to be anything but happy for him, because I know that this was a dream come true, like a finally, like this is finally happening for me. And just considering everything we've been through in the last 4 years, you can't help but to feel it was like a sigh of relief. Like, like even if it's like, chaos might start tomorrow, like this is finally just seeing, like, even seeing Trump leave. I'm like, even if he doesn't say anything to Biden, because usually I know he broke a tradition. And a lot of people had a lot to say about that, but I was like, just good riddance. So I was okay with it. I was like, just, if you want to wake up at the crack of dawn and go about your business, get up at 6 a.m. and go about your business. You ain't got to say bye to nobody. You ain't got to do nothing. Just adios.
Do you guys remember if Trump even gave a speech? I know he said that when he got back to Florida, he was going to give a speech to his supporters, but I don't remember any real coverage of it, or if he said anything
He
worth
did. He said
even repeating,
that he had great faith in the future of this country, and he had a lot of trust in the new administration, which was actually pretty shocking to me. He handled it really well.
He doesn't want to go to jail.
Yes. Yeah. But see, for me, that has never stopped him. Like, the consequences of his actions has never stopped him from making a complete ass of himself, or just being like very vile and disgusting. To me, I was expecting for him to have something nasty to say, and for him to be mature for once, after all the fight he's put up, all the, the fraud allegations, and just, how much of a sore loser he's been this entire election. I was actually very surprised he took the mature route and had something nice to say for once. I was not expecting that at all.
He did say he'll be back in some form, which,
yes,
classic Donald form. I was like, I respect that.
Yeah, what does that mean? Is he going to come back as his son or something? Like, reincarnate? Is he gonna? You think he's gonna be? I mean, we don't know if he's gonna run again or how this impeachment trial is going to work out. I mean, it doesn't sound like anybody really has an appetite for it on the Republican side. But I mean, I'm curious what that in some form means. Could it be through Ivanka or one of his other kids? I don't know.
It's definitely not through Don Jr. He hates that guy, so it's definitely not
like the rest of us.
Which surprisingly, he is like the hardest working Trump besides the original one.
Which, sadly, that doesn't say a lot.
It doesn't say a whole lot. But we're not here to talk about Trump. Screw that guy. He lost. He failed taking a dictatorship. He lost multiple times, man. We are also going to give a special shout out to Eugene Goodman. I don't know if you guys remember him, but he was the cop that kind of led that angry mob away from the Senate.
His Gucci scarf.
His Gucci scarf, yep. He was promoted to deputy. What was it?
Deputy
Sergeant at Arms.
Yep, Deputy Sergeant at Arms of the Senate. So congrats to him.
Right. I thought that was really great of them to do that, to recognize him in that way. And I thought it was really I at first, because I didn't know that that's what he had done. And I think when we learned that he was kind of like trying to get them away from an unarmed door or unsecured door, I'm glad to see that he's being recognized for the hero or for the role that he played in it. And especially during Inauguration Day, I thought that was a really great move. And I'm really happy for him.
Yeah, I agree too. And it was also pretty powerful to see that he was escorting Kamala Harris through the hallways of the Capitol building. So I thought that was a really powerful message as well too. So shouts out to him. I think he's doing big things, so shout out to him. We also saw the youth poet Amanda Gorman. She kind of stole the show at the inauguration, so shout out to her.
The youngest. She's the youngest inaugural poet. She's 22.
22. Yep. Shout out to her. And I think like Oprah Winfrey kind of like helped her get up to that point or out there. I don't know. I think Oprah just used her connections to help her out to get up there. And it is rumored that during the inauguration ceremony, the original bad guy, George H.W. Bush, during the inauguration, had a conversation with James Clyburn, stating that the party was saved during the inauguration. Now, Bush's chief of staff tried to walk the comments back, but it seems like Bush was rather happy to see that Trump didn't win and that there was no bombs in that day. So, shout out to him.
Interesting take. He's not wrong though.
He's not wrong. No, he's not wrong.
I can't help but to say, and I said to somebody, you know how awful you have to be to make George Bush look like a good guy? Because, you know, and I said, you know, his budding friendship with Michelle Obama has kind of, his rebrand has kind of, you know, casted him as like a different kind of Republican.
He's
but
like
I think,
bear.
yeah, you know, but
in terms of politics, he's just like this, like, oh, look at little George Bush, and he's doing so nice. Like, he's a cuddly character now instead of, you know, a war criminal.
George Bush, guy.
But you know, to see. But because of what we've been through these last 4 years, it makes you forget all the horrible things that George Bush has done or how people felt about him when he left office. Mm-hmm. So I just think that's really crazy because I can't help but to think about like all the monstrosities that he has done during his time in the White House.
I think George Bush should be on Clubhouse and he should teach a course on how to rebrand yourself, no matter how low you've fallen. I think that would be a really good Clubhouse, and I would definitely tune in to watch to see how he did it. Because all
what people do on Clubhouse.
What was that?
Is that what people do on Clubhouse? They
do.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was just people moaning in rooms. But that's
that too.
Okay.
Different, all right. It's two sides to Clubhouse. Like there's two sides of America.
Okay.
Shout out to Clubhouse.
That makes sense now. Okay.
Yeah. So before Trump left office, he pardoned a very small amount of people, not too many. But on his pardon list, he pardoned Lil Wayne. He pardoned Kodak. This is a nasty list.
It's just a random list of people, like just a random.
He pardoned Lil Wayne, Kodak Black, Steve Bannon, and Elliot Brody, a former RNC chairman, or fundraising chairman, I should say, who also got a Playboy bunny pregnant. So shout out to
cover it up and try to cover it up. So yeah,
try to cover it.
Interesting company, man.
Very, very interesting, man. But you know, shout out to Kodak, shout out to Lil Wayne. Hopefully, they'll come up with new records soon.
Playing chess. You see that? They were playing chess. You guys thought they were actually supporting Trump. They were just doing it to get their pardons out. So shouts to them. Yeah. Also, shouts to people that don't know what chess is and have been saying that for the last week.
Marcus with the jokes today. I love it.
Yeah.
So we kind of like returned to normal. And I know the inauguration was kind of a call to normal, but we also saw our first daily press briefing from Jen Psaki. That was a huge sigh of relief for me. Just seeing the last like 4 years and also the last 4 years of just Trump yelling at the top of his lungs and like a helicopter engine blaring in the background. It was just nice to actually like hear and understand exactly what was going on and what's being said. So shout out to her. President Biden decided he's going to cancel the Keystone Pipeline.
Which was great. I didn't even know that project was still existing.
I didn't know.
I thought that Trump. I thought Trump had kind of ushered it along to being completed, and it kind of just like fell because of all the other, hundreds of things he had going on. Mm-hmm. But to hear that we can actually cancel it now, I know that Trudeau is Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, is going to try and lobby to keep it alive in some form or fashion. But I mean, Biden's made climate change a big part of his platform, so it's reassuring to hear. A lot of things reassuring about the Biden administration so far, but it's reassuring that this thing is getting canceled.
Have you also seen how elated Dr. Fauci looks?
He looks so happy.
He looks so happy. He looks like he just looks so happy to just have, like people are like, wow, like this is a competent administration. Like it's been a complete like 180.
Have you ever had a bad boss and they leave the company for whatever reason?
And you're just so excited to come to work. You're packing your lunchbox every day. You're just happy.
Yeah, it's easier to work. A cloud's been lifted. That's Fauci. He's like, yes, my terrible boss is gone. I have a new guy in here. He actually has
listens.
an idea of what he wants to do. He listens to me. Yeah, he's a leader right now. It's
and
again,
I thought it was,
great.
I thought it was interesting because Biden had kind of done, I believe he was talking about the virus, and he was saying, I had seen this on Twitter. A lot of people were upset that he had said this, but he was basically saying that we can't change the trajectory of the virus at this point for the coming months. And a lot of people are like, well, you said you had a plan, and now you're saying you don't. And I think a lot of people are realizing that the time to do something about it was a year ago, because we're now coming up on the anniversary of, or we're past the anniversary of the first confirmed COVID case. And the time to have done something about the trajectory of this virus was, months ago, almost a year ago. And, once again, the Trump administration failed. And I can't help but to compare it to Obama when he kind of came in. And a lot of people were like, okay, now what are you going to do about the economy? What are you going to do about the veterans? Like, what do you, and it's like, you have to spend a lot of time fixing the mistakes of the person that came before you. And he's absolutely right. Like, we're a year into this thing. We got people who still don't want to wear a mask. You have people who are still traveling for no reason, still going to clubs, still having people over, just doing, just acting as this is because they're over it, that they no longer want to pretend. They want to pretend like this virus is just gone. Like, I don't want to deal with it. And now you're kind of pointing the finger at Joe Biden. But I think it's important to note that if we want to get rid of this virus, it's a collective effort, and we can't just rely on the government to get rid of this, because it's really not, it's a government issue in the sense that, yes, they have to make legislation and pass like mandates to kind of like slow the curve. But if the people aren't willing to listen and do what the medical professionals are asking you to do or telling you that you need to do to slow this thing down, like, people are still like, I'm not getting that vaccine. They're putting microchips in a vaccine. Like, how are you putting microchips in a syringe full of liquid?
Look, these people,
like, I don't get it.
Things. Yeah, it's dumb. I was on Facebook because I normally go to Facebook to see if I'm missing someone's birthday or not.
Yeah.
So I was on Facebook just scrolling through the timeline to see what my people I went to high school for doing with their lives. Yeah. And one of them was like saying how Biden was seen on federal grounds without a mask on, and how can you do this when you just signed an executive order demanding that when you're on federal property, you need to wear a mask at all times. I'm like, come on, people. let's actually sit down and think about this.
And a part of me was like, y'all can't be this stupid. But then I had to stop and say, man. They are that stupid. Like, people are that stupid. And I think that's the people that are holding this thing up. Like, the people who refuse to just, like, take a second just take a second to, like, let's just abandon your conspiracy theories for like 1 second. And just look at the hard facts of the situation. Like, for a year now, months, Dr. Fauci, the CDC have been saying, do this, don't do this. This is going to increase the numbers. Oh, in the coming months, you're going to see an influx of COVID cases. Oh, new strands are being introduced. But yet, everybody want to go to Cabo. Everybody want to go to Tulum. You want to go to Houston. You want to go to Atlanta. You want to go to, club appearances. Oh, your rapper having a birthday party. I want to go to my rapper's birthday party. But then want to be like, I'm so sick of COVID. I'm sick of you. So it's like, I can't help but to think, like, it's the same people who complain. And so when someone comes around with a viable solution, it's like, oh, I don't want to hear that. So it's like, what do you want? Like, I just can't help. Like, I've said it over and over again. We're getting comfortable with this virus. We're learning how to coexist with it instead of moving past it. And it's very sad that, a lot of people thought that when Biden got to become a president, or a lot of people thought at 12 o'clock on January, 1st, COVID was just gonna magically pack its bags and just go back to where it came from, and everything was gonna be all good. But it's like it's not going anywhere unless we are, listening to the scientists, listening to the people who have spent the last year studying this virus and how it, flows, how it attacks people, how it attacks the body. It was once oh, if you're old or you're young and you're immunocompromised, you're at risk, but everybody's at risk. Like nobody is safe from this thing. I know people who have had COVID months ago and still have no sense of smell or taste, who have respiratory who have ongoing respiratory issues that they've never had before because of this virus. It's not a joke. It's really a very nasty, deadly thing. And if we don't buckle down and start listening and start doing what we need to do, it's gonna get worse.
No, agreed. And speaking of stupid people, we kind of realized, like after the fact, after Trump left and the dust settled, just like more scary stuff that came out the woodwork. So, for example, the My Pillow guy, he was seen walking out the White House with a notepad that said "issue martial law." My former congressperson from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, he basically was trying to help Trump pick a guy to be the new acting AG to help overthrow the election from the federal level. So Trump was definitely very serious about staying in power. And then speaking,
I guess we're thankful. I guess we lucked out really that people talked him out of doing these or engaging in this, and they got the My Pillow guy. That's who you're going to. To maintain power, your grip on power, like you're listening, that's who you go to. You're the president of the United States, and the only people you have to kind of advise you on these things, or we're trying to keep you in power. The My Pillow guy, that ought to tell you everything you need to know.
It's just crazy to me that this guy who does the commercials holding a pillow wants to have issue martial law.
By the way, it's a terrible pillow. I used to work in a buying office where they sent us samples for this pillow. It's fucking awful. It's one of the worst pillows ever. I'm shocked this guy's even worth money. But yeah, he's absolutely. He can't even. Again, he goes from he used to be. Shouts to him for coming from being a drug addict and then being able to make something of himself. But my God,
drug addicts.
I know that.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck that guy. Yeah. It's a pillow's not even comfortable. Screw that guy.
It's not a good product. It's not a good product at all. I'm shocked that he's been as successful as he has. It's again, that whole party is nothing but grifters anyway. But yeah, fuck that guy.
All right. So here's the last bit of the Trumps, and let's just stop talking about them. So basically, Donald Trump is thinking about forming a third party called the Patriot Party.
Nice.
Yeah, congrats to him. Donald still has a grip on the Republican Party. We can kind of see this in examples of there are calls, at least in the House, to have Liz Cheney resign from her leadership role. And also, if you look towards Arizona, Arizona Republicans voted to censor their governor, Doug Ducey, and also Cindy McCain, the widow of John McCain, for just supporting. One, Doug Ducey certified the election. How dare him? And then Cindy McCain said that she was going to vote for Joe Biden, and they both get censored for that. And here's something that I'm a little bit confused about. There are rumors swirling around that Ivanka Trump is going to make a primary challenge against Marco Rubio. I just don't know who I hate more and who I want to see out of politics forevermore. So, right. But if you had to choose one, it's like which one do you go with?
I hate to say it, but we talked about this before the pod. I think I'd rather see Ivanka take his senator seat just because Marco Rubio is just so detestable. Anytime the guy speaks, anytime the guy tweets or anything, or he's in the news, it's just it's just going to be some foul shit. And I feel like we're better off with him out of the picture, even if it is we get 6 years of Ivanka, which will probably be shorter because she'll find a way to get involved in some something where she has to step down. I feel like I'll take Ivanka. Because Marco Rubio, during his time in the Senate, hasn't done anything. I mean, he did work on immigration under Obama, but that's fell through. And beyond that, he's just been an absolute, pain in the ass while he's been in office. So get him out of there.
Yeah, he tried to take us to war in Venezuela. So I want him gone.
Yeah.
So Marcus, I agree with you, and unfortunately, it's hard to say that. Not agreeing with you, but agreeing that I prefer Ivanka Trump over Marco
Between the
Rubio.
two, right? I really want is Democrats to run a really good and strong candidate in Florida and to take the seat. That would be ideal, all right? But if I have to choose between the two for the Republican side, give me Ivanka.
I think that's fair because it's like we've seen what a Marco Rubio we've seen like what Marco Rubio has done. And like, you know, Marcus said, he needs to go. I would rather take my chances with Ivanka, hoping that maybe she would wow me, versus kind of like looking at Marco Rubio to do something other than what he's been doing. And one is more likely than the other. Like, I feel like it's more likely that Ivanka will wow me than Marco Rubio will turn out to be somebody completely different. Like, he's him, and he's gonna keep being him. Whereas I feel like Ivanka might develop a completely different political identity outside of her father or outside of her role as his senior advisor. But Marco Rubio, he's not gonna be anything other than Marco Rubio.
How funny would it be if like we're basically giving Ivanka and her team like notes on how to take on Marco Rubio in 2022? That's what's good. She's like, oh yeah, I heard it on a podcast and it seems like a really good strategy. We're just gonna hit him over the head with that. We're just basically giving you free game, Ivanka.
I feel the same because I feel like I kind of have the same, you know, sentiments about Ted Cruz. Like, I hate Ted Cruz. And if it was between, you know, somebody, you know, that was grotesque or somebody that I didn't really care for versus Ted Cruz, I'm going to take my chances with the person who grosses me out, who I don't really like, versus in Ted Cruz. Like, some of these people need to pack it up and just like get the fuck on, because you're not doing anything. And I think a lot of them have gotten comfortable with where they are. So it's like, why do I have to be anything other than who I am? Like, I'm good. Like, I'm good with it. I think for me, like, even like Ted Cruz the other, like, you know, he was like, oh, Biden cares more about the citizens of Paris by rejoining the Paris climate, you know, the Paris agreement.
So stupid.
And it's like, excuse me, you're a fucking U.S. senator.
You went to Harvard, buddy.
You don't know that the Paris agreement was signed. It's called that just because it was signed there. It has nothing to do with Paris. Like, that's it. Like, I'm sorry, but that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing that our senators and the people that we elect to be competent when it comes to politics and government don't even know the basic fundamentals of American government. I feel like that should be the basic prerequisite to have a Senate seat. But we're lost. Like, Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz, there's no saving that. Like, they have to go. There's no, you know, rehabilitation for them. There's no changing. There's no like, oh, maybe if we give them some chance, if we keep critiquing them, they'll, you know, start to get it. No.
I just wanted to point this out that Ted Cruz is Canadian, and I just want to say that Canada tends to be sending us their worst to our country, and I propose that we close off our northern border to save our nation. Yeah. So that's my little bit there.
Canada's really dope, though. I feel like we don't want to close that border because we have to escape somewhere.
That's true. That's good fun, Marcus.
Yeah, because what if they close their borders for us? We would be doomed.
And then Trump and Hawley 2028 come in. But then what do we do?
You ain't got nowhere to go.
Yeah,
you ain't got nowhere to go.
Here.
So, you know.
That's a nasty ticket. That's a like get the hell out ticket.
Yeah.
That's a like, if you got a dual citizenship, take advantage of it. Like, just go back to where you came from. Like, if you're an immigrant, just fuck America. Like, I don't even care if you're like facing like horrible times in your country. Like, just deal with it.
Get out.
Like, just brace yourself for it.
Seriously. Make a desperate call to England.
That's sad.
Hey, come help us out again. All right, let's talk about what's going on in Capitol Hill. So Joe Biden, he's pushing through a pretty large COVID relief package. It's $1.9 trillion. As you mentioned in the last pod, it's not going to contain the $2,000 checks. It's going to contain the $1,400 checks. It's getting a lot of opposition from Republicans, as you can suspect. For example, Rand Paul, junior senator out of Kentucky, he said a $15 minimum wage will hurt Black youth. I don't know how, but
he did some really special reasoning on this one, or logic on this one. Like his thought is that, so there's an old like conservative orthodoxy that if you raise the minimum wage, then companies are going to fire their workers, right? Even though there's really been no connection. The economists have been studying this for years. There's no connection between raising wages, for raising the minimum wage, and the unemployment rate going up. There's no connection there at all.
Mm-hmm.
But his argument is that that's going to happen, and then all of the Black youths who are working in these low-paying minimum wage jobs are going to then lose those jobs because companies are going to want to pay them. That's the argument. It's based on bad science, and I mean that's really what it is.
I'm starting to think that people sit at home and think like, what is the stupidest shit that I can say that'll have people talking? Like, what can I pull out of like my ass today that makes absolutely no sense, that has no backing, no theoretical, like no logic to it whatsoever, like just completely out of nowhere, that's going to get people talking? Because like we said last week, everyone is like, oh, if we raise the minimum wage, expenses will go up. Expenses have been going up. If we raise the minimum wage, I even see people say, like, if we start to raise the minimum wage, then I've seen somebody say, like, if we raise the minimum wage, then what about people who have a college? Like, what are you talking about? Like, what does one have to do with the other? Like, I don't understand why there's so much controversy. Because like I said last week, if you do the numbers, raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour really totals out to a yearly salary of $30,000 per tax, like low $30,000 per tax. Nobody's living off of that. So it's like, I don't really understand what's the argument or the animosity between the government mandating that companies pay their workers the bare minimum when these corporations can afford to do so. They could actually afford to pay way more than $15 an hour, if we're being completely honest. So for me, it's like the argument or the consistent theories behind, oh, well, if we raise the minimum wage, what would be the effect of that? The effect would be maybe people wouldn't have to work maybe people wouldn't have to constantly be in fear of like, how am I going to afford my basic necessities? Even though that probably won't even go away with $15 an hour. But like Marcus said, people have been studying this for years and how this would level out or how this would make sense. And there's really no backing to this theory that raising the minimum wage would have a negative effect. If anything, I believe that it would have more of a positive effect on the economy, if anything. But then again, people sit at home, type on their computers, type on their phones, make up asinine, theories and conspiracy theories about shit that makes absolutely no sense, all because you're threatened by the fact that somebody who flips burgers at McDonald's might make just a little bit more than you, or a little bit, I just think it shows people's elitism. I said this and I'm gonna say it again. I think it's just, oh, I make $18 an hour at my low desk job. Mm-hmm. How dare you flip burgers and you make $3 less than me?
Yeah.
You ain't making, you're struggling too.
Yeah, you need to. That's a you problem. You need to go negotiate a better rate for yourself.
That's not them.
Rather than settling for $18. Like again, like if you're working a desk job and only making $18, that's something that you can totally take control of. And either in a better economy, you can go and get another job that pays you more, or you can go back to your employer and say, hey, look, I need to be making more.
I do more.
Yeah, I'm worth more than $18. Again, that's you that's more of your fault that you can kind of go and fix. So you should feel empowered to fix rather than putting it on the people that make $15 an hour minimum wage.
I just employ people who are consistently crippled by capitalism, who don't benefit from capitalism at all to stop praising capitalism or viewing capitalism as this great American hope. Because unless you are at the tippity top, you're not benefiting from capitalism. You're being exploited. And if you're being exploited, I don't know why you're working so hard to uphold something that is consistently exploiting you. Because you think that you're getting off well by making $18 an hour because the person at Wendy's is making $13 or $7 an hour. And you think that you're doing well for yourself, but when you look at your yearly, pay stub and you see that you're not making nothing, your energy needs to be directed at the people who get to vacation 4, 5, 6 times a year because you show up to work every day, and not the person who's just trying to get by. Like, this constant bickering between workers about minimum wage, but not directing that energy at the people who are literally benefiting year after year off of your hard work. It just consistently blows my mind how people can't see that you're being taken advantage of. Like,
So-
Kind of Stockholm syndrome, when you think
Yeah.
about it.
And I think like Carly kind of touched on a good point, and we should probably move on to this topic. But I think like the deeper issue is that we really got to take money, at least corporate money, out of politics, because we kind of mentioned this before. Like Ted Cruz went to Harvard; he's a smart guy. Rand Paul, his dad's a former politician; he's a medical doctor. Again, another smart person. Why are you saying something so blatantly dumb? And I think it's just more so that they're not really representing us; they're representing corporations. And I think Carly's point is like you're pitting workers against each other. There's a deeper thing. It's like why unions, at least in the private sector, aren't as prevalent as they were way back into the day. So I think like the deep dive into we just got to get rid of like corporate dollars out of politics, and then we could probably start seeing some real change. But until that doesn't happen, we're just going to see the same BS over and over and over again.
Absolutely.
So one thing that I was going to say to this that was like, I was going to say, screw Rand Paul. Like, why do we care what Rand Paul thinks? Because we have the reconciliation in our back pocket. We can pass this $1.9 trillion bill without the Republican help. But Joe Manchin and the senator out of Arizona, I forgot her name.
Kristen Sinema.
Yes, Kristen Sinema. She's also a centrist as well. Those two, I believe, Mitt Romney and Susan Collins, are coming out in opposition to the bill due to the high price tag. Mitt Romney's issue is that there was a $900 billion COVID relief bill that was passed under the Trump administration not too long ago. What happened to that money? Why aren't we focusing on that? And then, like, add on top of that with this one, I think Joe Manchin is sticking to, he wants the bill to be more targeted. He thinks that the bill is just giving money to too many wealthy individuals. So that's his kind of sticking point. I just want to know like what you guys kind of thought about their opposition to this, and are you a little bit concerned that this bill might either get canceled or we might not get what we want out of this bill?
I think that from the Democratic side, despite Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, Senator Sinema's opposition to the bill, they're not going to want to be the senators who have to run in a few years and have to be the people that voted to not give people $2,000 checks. I think that's going to be something that's I think would have hurt Trump, would have hurt I think we did see it play out or become important in Georgia. And I don't think any of these senators, despite what we might be hearing, either through back channels or from the people coming out and stating it matter of factly, they're not going to want to be the people that stand in the way of $2,000 checks. Now, there are other giveaways in the $1.9 trillion bill that probably need to be looked at. A lot of the aid that goes to businesses, I think, probably needs to be reevaluated, which would probably be a kiss of death for the Republican side since they're very pro-business. Yeah. And I do think that there is an argument for targeted relief in terms of, maybe playing with the thresholds that you give people money to. But the idea that $75,000, which I think is one of the cutoffs for people, $75,000 is not a lot of money.
That's not a lot of money.
To act like that people get those people are wealthy and are getting like money that they don't need or money that they're not going to spend. It's ridiculous.
And it also depends where you live too. Like if you live in like New York City, $75,000 is not a lot of money at all. So I just don't know like like if this is the hill you're gonna die on, this is like a really like weak hill to die on.
And I think especially when $2,000 is really not even enough, in my opinion. So this constant, for me at least, this constant arguing over whether people are deserving of $2,000 is really kind of once again, it kind of shows the privilege. It kind of shows the wealth gap, the ignorance to the working class people. Because if you really understood the value of $2,000 and to the everyday person who has been dealing with this pandemic for damn near a year, you would realize that that's pennies compared to what people should have been given. So I think for me, like Marcus said, yeah, maybe we should take a look at the bill in its entirety and start to look at where all these funds are going, because some of them might not be, the math might not be mathing in those situations. Like we might need to take a closer look, like with a microscope, to look at like, okay, why are we giving X amount to this or whatever? But the topic of a $2,000, relief, a pandemic relief, shouldn't even be a conversation. I think it should have been approved months ago. I think it should have been a continuous thing, because one installment back in April, May, and then now $600. It's kind of damn near insulting, honestly.
So I think
it's not a recurring bill either. That's the thing that gets me. It's like I could see if you're like, oh, we don't want to give people $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
But that's not what it is. It's it's a one-time $2,000 payment that has no promise of being paid for.
$3,200 for a year.
Yeah. Whereas other Western countries have been paying people out, who have elected to give people money have been paying it out pretty regularly. So I don't get
they've been literally paying people to stay home so that they can flatten the curve.
Exactly. So I don't get where Manchin and co are kind of coming from with this.
So I think Marcus had a really good point. It's like there are some parts of the bill that we should probably scrutinize, and that's what we want Congress to do. That's like their job. But at the same time, like we also did pass like a $750 billion defense spending bill. And where was the scrutiny? Like, does the military need a new fighter jet? Does the military need a new aircraft carrier? You know what I mean? Where was the scrutiny there in that defense spending bill as opposed to like the scrutiny here? You know what I mean? If there was this consistency throughout, I would actually agree with Joe Manchin, but since there's not at all, it's just like we're just talking about what are we actually arguing here about? It's $1.9 trillion. Even Janet Yellen said that we need to go into deficit spending. Even Joe Biden said that we need to do this. Like I just don't get like which hill these guys are dying on.
Yeah, I'm looking through the bill right now, just real quick. I don't even see anything. I called out businesses, but I don't even see anything in here that would really be a boon to big businesses. There's a lot of enhancing aid, rental assistance, help for the hungry, child care tax credits, subsidies for health insurance premiums. So I'm not even sure what in here besides the assistance for small businesses that would really be cut. That wouldn't be something that we need. That should have been addressed months ago by the Trump administration. So again, it's a weird position for Manchin and Sinema to take. I think if at the end of the day, they'll likely vote with the rest of the Democratic caucus, and I could even see someone like Romney who voted for $2,000 checks before, or who came out and spoke out for $2,000 checks before. I can see a scenario where he even comes across breaks the aisle. But yeah, this is just a weird position for them to take. So especially for an incoming president in a crisis that we need to start throwing big dollars at in order to manage.
You're right, and this is like the final thing before we just move on. Like we kind of have to use the Pete Buttigieg argument. Like Republicans are going to call us the deficit hawks are going to come out of nowhere regardless of what happens, right? And like the next election cycle is 2 years from now. Do you really think voters are going to be like, how dare you approve that $1.9 trillion spending bill and you're out of office because of that in 2 years? Absolutely not. There's going to be something else that happens in a year from now, or probably right before the election. It's going to be on voters' minds that the senators have to react to, kind of like the Supreme Court nominees that Joe Manchin kind of had to wait to the last second to vote for so that he can win this election. So again, just pass the damn bill and let's just move on to something else.
Yeah, the argument is just, it's getting tired at this point. it really shouldn't be this big of a fuss. And again, I can't help but to think it's, just out of touch rich people, out of touch senators who have gotten to, like, take Mitch McConnell, for example. Like, Mitch McConnell, like, I believe 10 out of 25 of the poorest counties are in Kentucky. Yet you have Mitch McConnell who consistently votes against giving aid to poor people. Like, how it doesn't get, I think it's just more, it's really just about people not even being willing to look, like, kind of like take a step down and be like, I got it, but I'm not affected. It's not about me. And I think we tend to lose sight of the fact that people are elected so that they can serve for the American people. And if the American people are struggling due to a pandemic, it is your responsibility as an elected official to vote on policies that act in the best interest of the American people.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's move on to an old section that we kind of dropped off, but I think so much has happened kind of to bring it back. It's called Back to Blue. So basically, Capitol Police fucked up again. Surprising, right? So this time what they did is that they banished the National Guard troops that are stationed in D.C. to a code parking lot. It's not funny. I'm laughing. It's like a nervous reaction, but they banished them to a cold parking lot. Again, no social distancing. The guys were just like, on top of each other. There was cars driving by, so they're breathing the exhaust fumes and stuff like that. I believe some soldiers did get COVID from their deployment. So shout out to the Capitol Police for again fucking up once again. And apparently the National Guard is probably going to stay there until March, which I'm like, DC is the most heavily policed area in the United States. Where is our tax dollars going here if the cops can't even protect that little ass area in DC? So again, like, shout out to the Capitol Police on that one. Kentucky's AG, Daniel Cameron, is facing impeachment calls from, get this, 3 of the jurors from the Breonna Taylor case. So hopefully he gets removed from office.
Hope so.
He's just a terrible, terrible human being.
I don't know. I'm not really familiar with, his tenure as AG prior to Breonna Taylor's case. But I think for jurors to come out and say that he handled, because, most jurors sign up, do their civic duty, keep it pushing. I think for jurors to take a vested interest in your negligence to the point where they now want you out of here, and just his complete lack of sensitivity to what has happened.
Yep.
It's telling. And I think we're getting to a point, which I'm happy about. We're getting to a point where it's no longer okay to just be like, well, I presented it. They didn't want to, indict. We can move on from it. So I'm happy that those jurors were brave enough to say something, and to be invested in Breonna Taylor enough to seek justice for her, even though they didn't get it in the grand jury indictment. But his handling of Breonna Taylor's case was unforgivable. It was horrible, and it's deserving of an impeachment.
Yeah. Another little note here in the petition. It's not just that he misrepresented the facts in the trial for Breonna Taylor, but they've also included claims for inciting an insurrection, because Cameron is a part of the Republican Attorneys General Association. If you don't know what that is, they're a political arm of the Rule of Law Defense Fund, which was making calls to encourage people to go to Washington, D.C. on January 6th. So not only was he kind of in charge with this miscarriage of justice here with regards to Breonna Taylor's killing, or murder, I should say, but he was also, seems involved, at least, not directly but indirectly with this insurrection that took place on Washington as well. So it's interesting. I'd love to see this him be removed from office, because I do think that he did mismanage this and he should be punished for it. But it's one of those things we're gonna have to wait and see on, I guess, right?
Yeah, we're going to have to wait and see what happens. I have zero faith in the people of Kentucky. Um, and then lastly, the Justice Department is weighing not charging everyone who stormed the Capitol. So basically, if you are just a non-violent person that just like wandered around there, took pictures for the gram, chances are you might not get charged by the Justice Department. Two legal systems. And so we can't end it on depressing stuff. So it's going to ask you guys this question. Since the chaotic former president's out the office now, what are we going to talk about? How are we going to keep this podcast going?
I think we'll have, honestly, I think we'll have a lot to talk about. I think it will be a different tone to this podcast. It won't be so much mocking ignorance, but more so actual. I think with this administration, I won't say that we're getting, I won't say things will change in its entirety, but I do believe that Joe Biden is a lot more competent, and he takes the role of being the president a lot more serious than Donald Trump ever did, because he is actually a politician. So I think this is a podcast about politics, government, and I think we'll be able to report on politics and government from a real political standpoint, because we're getting politics back. We were dealing with a fucking circus for 4 years, because you had a failed reality TV star who just decided one day, hey, I'm gonna run for president, and the stupidest people of America, which is a large majority of the people in America, decided to vote for him. So for me, I don't hold out a lot of hope for American government, because government's government, politics is politics. Mm-hmm. But to see someone actually be a politician in a role of politics, and handle the government from from a place of competence, I think we'll have a different tone to this podcast, and I think we'll have a lot more to talk about, in a sense of like the ongoing progression of the economy, the pandemic, the social injustices, just different programs that are supposed to propel America into a brighter future, which was something that I can honestly say from my heart that I just didn't experience in the last 4 years.
And all right, last question for everyone here. So we're going to get our first second gentleman. What do you think should be on the agenda of the first second gentleman?
The agenda for the first second gentleman? I think that we need to unveil a platform. We need to basically add to the platform sports gambling for the entire country. I'm tired. I mean, I think that, look, this is a way for states to generate some money. It's time that we kind of get out of the dark ages and remove ourselves from the fears of the past, and make sure that sports gambling is something that you can do from the Golden State of California all the way to New York. There should be no blockages. There should be nothing, no moral quandaries, anything keeping us from making that possible. And I think as an entertainment lawyer, as someone who has worked in the space, as someone who, someone who's obviously not going to have much to do, I imagine. I can't tell you what any of the second ladies did when they were in that position.
Yep.
This is my point.
I think that, hey, here's something you can do. Make sports betting something that we can do anywhere that we want, not just in places like Vegas and Delaware and Indian casinos and New Jersey. I don't know how I forgot that one, but it's something that should be done everywhere, and it's something that I think is a worthy cause for a second gentleman, because it's not really a position.
Marcus, I'm going to make this a clip. I am going to find out what his Twitter is. And hopefully he sees this.
I believe he has a Twitter. I think it's what would it be? SCOTUS? Would that be what it is? Second, well, SCOTUS. I think for me, like Marcus said, I can't tell you. I know Joe Biden, her thing was a lot unique because she worked a lot closely with military families. That was kind of her thing. But I think that that's something she was already involved in because of her son, um, and just her, close relationship with the military. And also, she's an educator, so she's big on education. But I think those are things that were close to home for her. So she just used her larger platform as the second lady to kind of enhance those things or kind of push harder for those things. But other than that, like I said, I can't tell you what any other second lady has done. I said it before the podcast. I think it's just a title that was given because it's like your husband plays a vital part in the government, so we don't want you to feel excluded. So we'll give you a title and we'll give you a platform. If Doug just wanted to dress up for nice events and dinners for the next 4 years, I wouldn't even be mad at him because, he didn't really, he's definitely breaking history by being the second gentleman. But did he ask for that? No. So I don't really think we can expect that much from him because I don't really think we expect much from second ladies. So I don't think it's fair for us to hold him to a higher standard if we're not going to hold the ladies to a higher standard.
Gambling.
Yeah,
let's make it a thing.
Let me just I don't think we're holding him to any standard whatsoever.
I don't think we should.
I think he should advocate for stay-at-home dads. I think he should promote that.
I can see that too.
I don't believe in stay-at-home dads. So.
Being able to wear sweatpants not all the time, all right, 24/7. That should be what he advocates for if he's not going to do gambling.
Exactly. He should trade in the limousine or SUV that he gets for like a minivan and really ride hard for stay-at-home dads. All right, guys.
I'm here for it.
Seriously, same. Marcus, I really like your idea though. Like, I really hope we get that going. All right, so that concludes our podcast. This is episode 16 of the Liberalish podcast. If you like this episode, please share it with a friend or a family member. We are still young. We're still trying to grow this thing. Please follow us on Spotify if you haven't already, or follow us on YouTube. And also, please follow us on Twitter. Interact with Ryan on Twitter. That's at WYE Liberalish on Twitter. So please give us a follow. That's all I got for today, guys. Yeah. We're out.